This video is about building a My Pillow Pooch Perch, we're calling it. Well, my wife and I, we've been using these My Pillows for years now, and my wife saw that they came out with some dog beds a couple months ago, and she ordered some for the dogs, and I always said I was going to build some frames to put them in, because they're really nice. And actually, if you look at them, they're a real My Pillow right inside them, so they're really comfortable, and the dogs actually love them. And they're really, well-made material and everything else. You can throw them in the washer and stuff like that. So, finally getting around to building I'm calling it a Pooch Perch, because our dogs are short and they can't see out the windows when people come. So this is built to kind of jack them off so they can look out. And I'm going to start with some of my scrap walnut. Like I told you in the last project, I've been trying to use up a lot of these short pieces of walnut that didn't dry flat or, didn't dry properly. And so I went out and I grabbed a batch of them and, basically keeps them from becoming firewood. And once you take and you can take these warp boards, and once you cut them down to shorter pieces, it's much easier to flatten them out to run them through the joiner and get thicker stock out of them. So that's why I'm using them up for these small projects now. So I just cut them all into, like 3-foot lengths, I think it was I needed for this. And then it's over to the bandsaw, and there's a lot of live edge on them and stuff I have to get rid of, and, some bug damage in the sapwood and stuff like that too. So I just like to cut them down to the less than 8 inches wide to be able to fit on my joiner here. And just trying to, get rid of all that sapwood you can see and stuff like that. So I got my boards all, starting to be prepped, and I do wind up with a lot of kindling for starting fires too when doing this. And I decided to check the moisture on them, and it's kind of like all over. It's like between, I think it was between about 7 and 12. So, they're not perfect for using, but I figure they should work for this. So now it's time to go over to the joiner and start trying to get the warps and bows and twists, out of these boards, and try to get as thick a piece out of them as I can. So a couple passes on the joiner here you can see, and I wind up with one nice flat side there. And then over to the planer, and they're all different thicknesses, so it does take multiple passes to plane them down here. So I was actually kind of keeping an eye on my planer, because I knew that the drum was actually getting close to full. So, I got that sensor there, and while watching it, I noticed the sensor didn't go off, and the drum overfilled there, and this is the second time that's happened to me. So I pulled it up, and I looked in there, and there still was, that's about where it should have gone off before it started building up like that in the thing. So I figured out what the problem is. Both times I had the problem with using walnut and doing walnut chips. So I actually set the sensor so it'll go down a little bit further, and now it's working fine. Apparently the walnut's not as reflective, and there you can see some of the sapwood. Actually, I wound up burning that up because it had, bug holes in it and stuff like that. But, yeah, it turned out that the walnut just apparently wasn't as reflective as the lighter wood, and it was causing problems with the sensor. By about 2 inches it was off. So that's fixed now, and I'll see how that works from now on. And I just ripped up those pieces and got some straight edges on them and stuff, and they're about 0.69 thick I got. So I'm just going to take and glue up a couple pieces to make the side panels here. And you can see I did wind up with some pretty nice wood out of them in the end, so they weren't total scrap. And those parallel jaw clamps really do make this kind of stuff easy. They really do hold it flat and everything else. And, you clamp it, and then you can stand them up on end like that to clean up the backside too, is another thing that I like about them. So, I've been real happy with them so far. So I got my first panel there all glued up, and just have one more to glue up for the other side. So there I am. I got my 2 panels now ready to go, and I'm putting them on the router there. And this is actually the second time I've tried using it, and I seem to have everything worked out pretty good on it. I did finally get my switches and stuff, so I'll be doing a final update video about it, but everything is really working good. I still have some timing to work on for, like you can see, for the motor to spin up there when the spindle turns on. I've got it set at 18 seconds, but actually it spins up in about 10, so I can, I can start to shorten down cycles and stuff now that I can actually get some measurements on it. But my biggest problem I'm finding out is I've just been using like an MLCS 1/4 inch router bit for the couple things I've done so far, and that's actually getting a little bit dull now, I think. Plus I did try running it a little faster, and it just can't handle that. It's just not sharp enough to be able to do it. So I've ordered some new router bits too that are actually made for CNC routers, so that should really help me out in the end. But pretty much everything's working pretty much perfect. The accuracy is there and stuff, and these router bits I can only run so fast here, just because of the chip load on them and stuff. And I really do love this mask, so I'm so glad I went with this. Just such a nice thing to not have to wait for something to boot up, and nothing ever goes wrong, and can't get viruses and stuff like that. I really do. I'm glad I went that way. But it did take about 5 minutes to route these panels out. So, and I did go fairly slow. I think I'm only going at about 60 inches a minute, because that bit can't really take any more than that in a 1/4 inch cut per pass depth. So I'm doing that's a roughing cut that I'm doing there. That's actually 5 thousandths under the finished size. And then in the end, I'll go back and I'll do a finish cut on them. So I've got that all pretty much worked out in the software, so I can program it and stuff. Temperature's been really holding good. I don't see much more than 1 or 2 degrees Fahrenheit rise in that water temperature. So that extrusion really seems to be handling it good, and I'm not seeing any expansion in it or anything like that. But I'm real happy, and dust collection really has worked out good. Basically, when you use a spindle, you don't have the air blowing down that you have with a router. That really helps to spread the dust around the shop and stuff. So you don't have extra air being pumped into the housing down there. So it makes it so you pretty much catch 100% of everything that's coming off the bit. So I'm real happy the way it's going now, and it really does make jobs like this really easy to cut out and make them, have the accuracy there and not have a lot of headaches and make templates and stuff. It's kind of fun to see everything working, and the spindle's been working perfect. The the RPMs are holding good on it. No, I've never been able to load it down yet, so it definitely is probably like the 3 horsepower that they say it is. And you can see there the first side here is just about cut out, and then I'm just going to go back once this finished cuts and cutting, and I'm going to just take a 5 thousandths pass off each of the surfaces to clean them up and make them pretty much perfect. So there it goes, the full depth of the piece, just to do a finish pass to clean it up now. And I am really surprised how well all these, these low-cost components that I used here off of Amazon, how they all really did work out in the end, in the accuracy and everything else. So there you can see that's the final cut, and like I said, I do have some down cut and up cut bits coming and stuff, so I'll be able to run it a little faster and get a little bit cleaner cuts too. But actually, for just being a standard old MLCS bit, I've pushed it pretty hard for a while, and it's working good. I still have to make some better hold downs and stuff. I'm just using some plywood with some bolts in it, but it works. Plus, I also put down some double-sided tape under it. You can see it's kind of stuck to pieces a little bit. I didn't want those dog bones in the middle to come loose when I was doing the second cleanup pass. Or I didn't want that center to shift there either, so I figured a little double-sided tape would, hold it good for that final cut, and it actually did. And one thing I do have is I have a couple thousandths higher on the right-hand side of the spoil board, so I do have to go back and do a surfacing of that next too. But first piece is done, time to go back and set to 0, and I really do like that dust boot that I picked out, because to do the probing and stuff, you can just pop that off and then it snaps right back in place, and it just works perfect, and it doesn't get in the way, and I'm real glad I didn't waste my time building something. So there we go again. I'm cutting the second side here, and pretty much the same thing, so I'll try not to bore you too much longer. And the mass, I just there's a picture of it again. I just really love that thing there. So it's it's kind of fun to watch this work now, and all the frustrating part of it is over and stuff. So I'm real happy with how it came out in the end. And I still do have to do some work to get the rotary, working right. But I have to get software for that first, so that's going to be a matter of time. And then I got these done, and I'm going to go right over to the that jet sander. And that really, I'm very happy with that. It just does such a nice job, and cleans everything up good. It removes all the marks from my planer and stuff with no problem. And then there you can see that. The second one I cut a couple thousandths less deep, so I didn't go through, and I just left it so the sander would take it out. And then I'm not really good at programming yet, so I got to go back and put the radiuses and stuff on with the router table, which is much quicker for me and easier right now, especially with the software that I'm using. I'd have a heck of a time trying to get the radiuses in there. So it just takes a second on the router table there, and it's all real easy to do. And then I just need to cut off a piece of plywood, and you can see how, since I put that Craig fence on that other Incra sled there, I can cut 2 feet now, so that works out good for breaking down panels and stuff. And then the stop really worked good too for sizing things, so I'm happy with the way that came out. And now I have to put some grooves in for the shelf for the top bed, for the bunk bed up there. And again, I could have done this on the CNC router, but my program wouldn't let me do it for some reason. It wouldn't let me just use the 2 horizontal lines and not have the 2 ends capped off, because I used them in the previous thing. And then remember this Prestige blade that I lost a tooth on? I found out when I was cleaning it. Well, I had a subscriber tell me that I should try contacting Amana, and I was just getting ready to order one, but I sent an email off to Amana, and about 20 minutes later, I got back a reply asking for my shipping address, and they just said they were going to send me another one. Now, I asked them if it would be a warranty issue or if I could just pay them to put another tooth on it, and they just had tools today send me out a new blade. And I have to tell you, this is definitely my favorite blade. I mean, that other one's been on the saw since I got it. It's cut quite a bit of material, and they didn't seem to care. I told them it had been on the saw for a couple of years, and it really had cut a lot, so I didn't really expect them to do anything. But definitely, this is my favorite blade ever. And one thing about it too is I realize it's made in Israel. So that may be why it's so good. I don't know, but I've had really good luck with the other one, and I'm hoping this one lasts just as long. So there it is, everything's clamped together there, and I'm just sort of winging this, putting it together. So I had to clamp it together and go back and take measurements for that last piece to go across the top there. So I glued up a couple more of those little strips here to make the top guardrail there so the dogs can't fall out. And back over to the CNC router, and I decided I was going to put that same dog bone pattern in it. And you can just see how easy it is to do patterns like that stuff. Oops, got my keyboard. I still have to make a shelf for the keyboard, but went to grab the dust collector button to turn that on. And you can pretty much hear how quiet the router is until I turn on the dust collector. And once the cutter hits the wood, it gets louder too, though. But it does work good, and I'm really surprised. I'm catching pretty much 100% of the dust out of it, which really, really makes me feel good. So there it is, just railing with some dog bones in it, so that they can have a place to look out while they're heads down and stuff, and makes a real simple job out of it. Just start with a little bit oversized piece and cut the best pieces out of it. And there you can see all the dust collection. That's all working perfect. So I'm really happy. And there's a big piece. And then I did put double-sided tape under this one too to keep those bones from moving in the final cut. And there's what it looks like. So next thing is I got the sander right next to the router now, and that's really a good place for it because everything comes right off the CNC router and goes right through it. So it's working out good there. And a couple of passes, I just take light passes on this stuff. It removes all the fuzz and the burrs and anything that's any defects from the router. And then I decided to save those little bones that I cut out there for another project. So just running them through there to get all the fuzz and stuff off of them. So definitely, so far the sander's really been wonderful. I'm very happy with it. And then again, you want to put radiuses, break all the corners because they just stay better when you do that. And they actually look better too. So I just did that all on the router table again. And there it is. I just have to cut a rabbet around the outside edge to fit. But you can see those are all the cuts from the router, and I haven't done anything to them. So it did cut nice, square, and even and everything else. Then I decided I was going to just put this on with some Craig screws. And I tell you what, I'm not really liking that 320 jig. Those Armor Tool auto clamp pliers were good, but I just don't like that 320 jig compared to the R3. Here I grabbed it first to try and use it, but I'll be going back to the R3. But those auto pliers, I've had really good luck with them, with everything, and every one of them worked perfect. So I definitely am happy with them. So I did cut the rabbet around the outside of that and got that in there, and I'm just putting some pocket holes down in the bottom, and then the top is just going to kind of float up and down in the groove there, and figure it's going to expand and contract over time. So I'm just going to put a drop of glue in there and just a couple of those pin nails to hold it. and that should let it move enough and stuff like that. And those pocket hole screws are about the handiest thing ever. I mean, you can use them for all kinds of joints and stuff like that. So, you can still get a little movement in them and stuff like that. And then I'm just going to put a couple pin nails in on an angle where that's in that groove there, just to give it a little extra strength also. And all glued up, and just got some clamps on until the glue dries. Alright, there's the R3 jig. Now, that's the one I'm back to. That's kind of my favorite one, and it actually works perfect with these auto pliers too. So I've got a board to go across the back there and the bottom to hold the one pillow from sliding too far. Same thing, just a couple pocket hole screws in there to put that in there, and it really does help stiffen everything up too. And once everything's all together, I'm just taking a little 1/8 inch, actually it's a 1/16 round over bit, I think, 1/8 inch total. And just breaking any of the sharp edges there so they don't get, nicked too easy. And then going back and just doing the final sanding on it. And a little too tall to sand on the bench, so I wound up setting it down on the floor. And then I'm going to do a couple coats of the polyacrylic on it. And between coats, I had to sand. I actually had to sand really good. I put some 320 on the power sander, and I had a lot of runs and drips and stuff that I had to sand out. You can see I'm using that fan filter there just to catch everything. But this was really a pain in the neck to get the polyacrylic on. But I did. I sanded it down, and I got the second coat. I really took my time, and I got that one on pretty good there. So just give that a little while to dry there, and that's, pretty much done. And as always, I do a final sanding and then a coat of that Johnson's paste wax. I just like putting that on everything. It kind of helps protect it and makes it shiny, or kind of breaks the shine on it, actually. Gives it a nice matte finish. And buff it out, and there it is. So that's my it's like a little bunk bed for the dogs, and the only thing left right now is to build a ramp. And you can see I put a half a bone on the bottom there to hang a sign I'm going to be making too on it. Now it's time to start on the ramp, and I'm not going to show too much of this because it's the video is getting real long as it is now. And I just took a piece of MDF to use for the ramp. In the meantime, I brought the bed up there. You can see she really loves those My Pillows. She ran right under there, and she likes the bottom of it. She'd kind of claim that right now. And real happy kind of being off on her own. But I had an old piece of carpet laying around. I used some of that spray adhesive on to put on there on a piece of MDF. And I left the edges over a little so I could tuck them into the sideboards. And these are just a couple more pieces of walnut. They weren't the best quality walnut that I had out in the shop, so I, just grabbed them to do the two sides so the dog wouldn't fall off the ramp. And then I actually cut a groove in it so that the carpet would be buried in the groove and kind of help it from unraveling and stuff. And cutting oops, you gotta watch where you put the tripod when you're cutting long stuff, found out. And then back to put a big radius on the corner there with the jigsaw. And then over to that oscillating sander there. And this is another tool that's really been wonderful. And back to the router to round everything off so it looks good and stays good. And then putting it together, the pile and the carpet, I wanted to put tape on there so I could finish it later, and it just kept getting caught. So it did take me a while to get that carpet down in the groove and get everything pulled together. And then just clamp it to the vise there to hold it. And I decided to just put some screws on the side so I could always just pull them off to change a carpet later. I had some pencil marks I had to sand off after I drilled the holes, and just a couple plain old they're blackened type screw. But I figured that'll work good, and then it was just a matter of flipping it over to the other side and putting some screws in the other side. And then I decided I'm going to take one of those bone cutouts and make a little sign to hang onto there. So I fired up the Ortor laser and made a little Pooch Perch sign there. And I just love these little lasers. They're so fun to do engraving on things and stuff. And mine have basically been trouble free. I've really enjoyed them, and they do a great job. And there you are, just going back and cleaning up last pass around the outside. And then while this was running, I went up and I put the ramp on the side. I got that all mounted. You see I put polyurethane on that also, and it turned out being a fairly long ramp because of the height of the unit that I made it. But it's going to take a while for the dogs to actually get used to it, is the thing. But it did work out good, and they do like being able to get up there and just look out the window when delivery drivers come and stuff. And there's I put little pieces of pretzel on the ramp there. This was my treat to get them to start going up and down it. So I'm hoping that works, and I know the little Chihuahua has been loving it, so she's gone down it a couple times. And hopefully the other one will start soon. But she does like laying down on the bottom of it. She likes being in that little closed-in area down there. So, I'm glad they both have a spot that they enjoy. And there's my Pooch Perch sign. I got some polyurethane on that, all ready to hang. And you can see my wife finished up that last little rabbit, and she's just making all the clothes for it now. So another couple of weeks she'll be done, and the Pooch Perch is now open for business. It's just a fun little project, and I got her up there, and she really enjoys it, and really loves those little My Pillow dog beds too. So I'm glad that they worked out good for him, because I know he loved the pillows, so I figured they'd be just as good for the dogs. And there's her favorite spot right down there, just hiding out in the corner. And it's going to be real nice not having to kind of pick the dog up and hold him so he can see out the window every time like an Amazon truck comes or UPS truck comes or the garbage man comes. Now they'll be able to just run up there and, look out on their own and stuff. I guess it's tough being a little short dog and, with tall windows and stuff like that. So this just turned out being a fun little build that, actually let me get some time on the router and, learn a little more about programming it and stuff like that. And looks like the girls are really going to enjoy it in the future. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.